once again, I call it pyramids and cones, but in reality, it's the surface area of everything. The front side, always, and I do recommend draw it. A recommendation, draw it. It's going to be a big rectangle. For prisms and cylinders, we always have a big rectangle in the center and two bases. It helps out if you highlight the base. So in my case, I'm going to say that this little square is my base. So those are my two bases. Whenever I have a shape, whenever I look at it and there's a shape that is not a rectangle, that's the base. But if they're all rectangles, you pick whichever one you want. All right, so for the big rectangle in the center, I'm going to write 24 times 5. The 24, because it's the perimeter of the base, right? I added all the sides of the base. So that's how I got the 24. And the 5 is the distance between the two bases, right? Because there's a base at the bottom. So 24 times 5 is 120. Now for my base, it's a rectangle. It's a 6 by 6 rectangle. So the area of that is 36 for each. Add everything, and you should have 192. So it's always, for surface area of prisms and cylinders, it's always a big rectangle in the center and two bases. And I'm calling it a base because it could be a rectangle, it could be a triangle, it could be a pentagon, a circle, whatever. And remember, for the big rectangle, it's perimeter, so add all the sides, perimeter times the height of the prism. And the height is usually the number that has nothing to do with the base. In reality, for the bases, you only got 4 choices. Triangles, rectangles, circles, or polygons. And when I mean a polygon, you're looking at a pentagon, hexagon, that's a polygon. So there's only 4 choices. Triangle, rectangle, circles, and polygons. Okay, you don't have to memorize that many formulas. All right, looking at question number 2, let me do a big rectangle and 2 bases. My bases are circles. For cylinders, I need both radius and diameter. I'm given the diameter, which is 24. So that means my radius is 12. Because the radius is half of the diameter. So for the rectangle, I'm going to use diameter. I'm going to say 24 pi. Right, I'm using the diameter. And I'm going to multiply this by 8. You notice is the distance between the circles. 24 times 8 is 192. So the rectangle is 192 pi. Now for the circles, I will use radius. The radius is 12, so I'm going to write 144 pi. Right, because I just went 12 times 12. Right, radius squared. Now add everything, and you should get, what's that? 480? All right, 480 pi. The 144 plus 192 plus 144. So 480 pi. So remember, big rectangle and two bases. That's all there is. If you guys Google it, if you guys Google what's the area of a surface area of a cylinder, more than likely it's gonna give you guys 2 pi radius squared plus 2 radius. Hold on, let me wait for this. It's processing. It just froze for a minute. Again, let me just wait. All right, so going back to this, now that it's working, more than likely, once again, it's going to give you 2 pi radius squared plus 2 radius height pi. That's the formula it's going to give you. But the way I see it is 2 circles, right? 2 pi r squared, that's 2 circles. And if you notice, my rectangle in the center I have diameter times height times 5. So it's two circles plus a rectangle. That's all there is. Don't want to give you formulas because then I have to give you guys a bunch of formulas. All right, looking at the front, any questions on the front? Which one? Number 3. All right, looking at number 3, they're all rectangle. Well, first, I know it's a big rectangle in the center. Now let me highlight the base. The base, since they're all rectangles, I'm going to choose this little square up here to be the base. I know at the bottom, it should be the same base. So my bases look like little squares. For the big rectangle, I'm just going to go 16 times 9, which we know is 144. The 16, it was the distance around the base. I added the sides of my base. And then the 9, it's right there. 16 times 9, which is 144. For the base, it's a 4 by 4 rectangle. Multiply those two numbers, so you get 16 for each of your triangles. I mean, 4 times 4. Right, so remember, for rectangles, you see it? So remember, for rectangles, multiply the two numbers across 90 degrees. Now add everything, and you should get 176. Any other questions from the front? 8. I'm going to do a big rectangle in the center. Now on my shapes, since they're all rectangles, pick one of them to be your base. It doesn't matter which one. I'm going to choose this little rectangle on the top. Obviously, the bottom should be the same thing. So they look like little rectangles. I'm going to put them right there. So for the big rectangle, the one in the center, I'm going to go 12 times 2. Remember the 12, because I added the 4 sides of my base. 5 plus 1 plus 5 plus 1. That's how I got the 12. The 2 is right there. So the big rectangle is 24. Now my base, it's a 5 by 1 rectangle. I have to go 5 times 1, which gives me 5 for each. Add everything, and then you should have 34. Remember, look at this as a big rectangle and two bases. Right? Right, let's take a look at number 5. Big rectangle in the center. Now for my base, since they're all rectangles, I have a choice. I'm going to choose this 11 by 5 rectangle. It doesn't matter which one you choose. Like, it really doesn't matter. So I'm choosing an 11 by 5 rectangle. It's right there. As a matter of fact, let me do the bases as it is. It's an 11 by 5, so I know it's 55 for the bases. For the big rectangle in the center, I'm going to go 32 times 11. Remember the 32, because I added the 4 sides of the base. Right, all the sides of the base, that's how I got the 32. The 11, it's that one. So 32 times 11, I got 352. Now add everything. You guys should get 462. One thing I do and very strongly recommend, draw it. Draw your big rectangle and your two bases. If you just write the numbers, you might forget what they came from. All right, so looking at number 4, it's a big rectangle and 2 bases. My bases are circles. I do need the radius and I do need the diameter. I'm given the radius, right? It's only halfway, so I'm given the radius. So the diameter must be 4, because it's twice the radius. So for the big rectangle, I'm going to go 4 pi. I'm using diameter. So 4 pi times 9, which is 36 pi. Since the radius is 2, multiplied by itself, 2 times 2, so each circle will be 4 pi. So you should finish with 44 pi. Which one? 9? All right, let's take a look at number 9. It's a big rectangle in the center. Now the base, it's a hexagon. Right, this one I don't have a choice. It's that hexagon. Whenever we see a side that it's not a rectangle, that's your base. So I'm going to draw it the best that I can. For the rectangle in the center, for the big rectangle, I'm going to go 36 times 12. Remember, 36 is the perimeter of the base. I added all the sides. So 36 times 12, is that 432? All right, so the big rectangle is 432. Now for the polygon, remember the thing I'm going to do is going to go 1/2 times 36 times 5.2. 1/2 times perimeter times apostrophe. Do me a favor, you're missing some. See how you started?
Yeah.
And you finish right here?
Yeah.
That was just one. There's one third line. So you're missing more?
Yeah.
Alright, so what did you say that it was for 93.6? Thank you. 93.6 for each. Remember, it's 1/2 times perimeter times the bottom. Add everything. And you should have 619.2. Remember, big rectangle and 2 bases. I think you guys can finish whatever's left from the front. Now let me take a look at the back. For pyramids, it's a base and triangles. As soon as you see a shape that is not a triangle, in this case a rectangle, that's your base. It's a 4x8 rectangle, so we can say the area of that is 32, right? 4 times 8. For each of my sides, let me get triangles. For 2 of my triangles, I'm going to go 1/2 times 8 times 10.2, which is 40.8. The 8 and the 10.2, I was looking at here and here. I was looking at 2 numbers that were crossing the 90 degrees, 8 and 10.2. Because it's a triangle, don't forget the half. For the other 2 triangles, I'm going to go 1/2 times 4 times 10.8, which happens to be 21.6. The 4 and the 10.8, I was looking at the 4 here and the 10.8 here. Right, I was looking at the 2 numbers across the 90 degrees. Add everything. In this case, everything is the 4 triangles plus the base. And you should have 156.8. So with the exception of cones, it's a base and triangle. for pyramids. The hard questions in here are the triangular pyramids. So let me take a look at number 19. They're all triangles. So let me get the area of my base first. I know it's a triangle. For the base, I'm gonna go 1/2 times 6 times 5.2, which happens to be 15.6. Whenever we have all triangles, for you to know which one is the base, it's the one triangle that you know the measurements of the three sides. So I was looking at that triangle. But remember, for the area of a triangle, multiply the two numbers across the 90 degrees. Don't forget the half. So that's why I went, if you notice for the 90 degrees, I have 6 and 5.2. Or the base. So the two numbers across the 90 degrees. Now for my triangles at the sides, I'm going to go 1/2 times 6 times 10.1, which happens to be 30.3. I went 1/2 times 6 times 5.2. So for the sides, it was 1/2 times 6 times 10.1, because if you see, there's a 6 here, and there's a 10.1 here. So you have to multiply the two numbers across the 90 degrees, but because it's a triangle, don't forget the half as well. Then add everything, and that's your answer. Yeah. What was it? Do you mean like this 6 right here? This 6 right here? This 6 right here? I use it to get the areas of my triangles. Remember, in a triangle, look for the two numbers across the 90 degrees. For the base, if you notice, it was 6 and 5.2. You see my 90 degrees there? Yeah. So for the base, I went 1/2 times 6 times 5.2. For the base. For the sides, see how the same 6 and 10.1 cross the 90 degrees? So 1/2 times 6 times 10.1. That's how I got my area. Add everything and you should get 106.5. Once again, for pyramids, obviously cones is not a pyramid. For pyramids, it's a base and triangles at the sides. Let me take a look at a cone. I know for a cone, I need a circle, right? The base is a circle, and then the side is going to look like, almost looks like a slice of pizza. For the cones, I just need the radius. The radius is 12. I don't need diameter for cones. For the circle, I'm going to get 144 pi. Radius is 12, so 12 times 12. For the circle. For the other part, I'm going to multiply 12 times 26.8 pi. You guys see where I got my 26.8? Right, 12 times 26.8 pi. Whatever you get, just add everything. You should finish with 465.6 pi. All right. Any questions? Which one? 17? All right. The base is a circle. So I know I have a circle And remember, my radius is 5. Right? The diameter is 10, so my radius is 5. So for my circle, I'm going to get 25 pi, right, radius squared. For the other side, radius times 12.1, that should be 60.5. I just went 12.1 times 5, so 60.5. Add everything, 85.5 pi. Okay. Radius times 12.1. Remember, but the radius is 5. There is a question that the diameter is pretty small, number 18. Do keep in mind the diameter is 2, so your radius is 1. So for 18, the radius is 1. All right, any other questions? 14. So I know I have to do a big rectangle in the center, and I know the area of that is 50, right? 10 by 5. Let me do my triangles at the side. For 2 of them, I'm going to multiply 10 and 9.3. See how they cross the 90 degrees? So I'm going to go 1/2 times 10 times 9.3. So you should get 46.5. For 2 of them. The other 2, I'm going to multiply 5 and 10.3. So I'm going to go 1/2 times 5 times 10.3. That's what? 51.5. What do you guys get with 1/2 times 5 times 10.3? 27.75. Thank you. 25. So 25.75. At the end, you should have 194.5. So it's a base and a triangle for each side. All right, any questions?